So to start, Michael, how does the writing process for YOLO differ from Smiling Friends or Koala Man?
It's pretty different. So we have a small writers' room in Melbourne that consists of Nina Oyama, who's a comedian in Australia. We've got Michelle Brazier, another comedian, and Greta Lee Jackson, all comedians. And I get in a room with them, and we just talk about a lot of kind of adventures they've gone through with similar kind of duos of friendships like Sarah and Rachel. Weird, very specific Aussie things, and even like a lot of feminine things that I don't know about, obviously, that they explore, and we just throw out. It's a big kind of like we have a lot of fun actually in the writers' room. We just throw out a lot of weird ideas, not even thinking about really like story structure or anything like that. It's more just like kind of like what we can actually explore in the season, and from there we get rough scripts that they write too, and I write, and then we go to the recording stage, and that's with Todd. And we used to do it at Princess Pictures at this church in Melbourne, and it was usually late at night. It was during COVID, and it was just a weird time, and it was good for creativity too, because we'd be up late, like almost delirious, going through these scripts. And what we do is we almost like rip them apart and kind of like improvise a lot of what's there and come up with new ideas and just come up with new kind of like aspects to the show in that recording session too, because that's like a secondary writer's room. So yeah, that's pretty much the process.
Nice. And Todd, you've voiced Rachel since the first YOLO cartoon just over 10 years ago now. When YOLO became a series, did you start to go about doing that voice any differently?
I actually did without realizing it, because I look back on there's actually a video somewhere on YouTube of me doing the voices to the original one on the original YouTube clip, and it's a lot nastier. It's a lot sort of really nastier. You can, I really got into it, sort of thing. But yeah, this time around, I think it might have been a little bit more legible, to be honest. It's still nasty because Rachel's got to be pretty sort of gross, but yeah, it was I mean, I just did what I sort of remembered. I didn't sort of look back and study or anything like that. I just sort of did what I felt was right for the character. And yeah, it turned out a little bit different to the original voice, but yeah, it still keeps the character, I think, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sarah, when you first heard about this role when Crystal Fantasy was coming out, what were your thoughts on YOLO?
Well, I saw, when I got asked to audition, I saw the original video, the YouTube video. And I'd seen it before. I was a fan of Cusack's work and had known him for a long time. So I watched that and I went, okay, like this is like me. I am not as crazy as that, and even vocally I'm not as crazy as that. But I kind of went in and I thought, okay, like I guess I'll just kind of do it as like the straight character. And then I think like that kind of worked with the direction that they wanted to take Sarah. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was like me kind of figuring out how to kind of honor what these guys had built with Sarah, and then also figure out what I can kind of add to her and how that kind of helps with the direction of the show.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And Michael, Pelican makes his grand return in Silver Destiny. What made him a character that you really wanted to revisit?
I don't know. There's something about him. He's so annoying that's funny to me. And I can actually see, you never want to make a character that's annoying and make an audience is annoyed. But yeah, I just can't help it. It's just so funny to me. He's also he's not just annoying for the sake of it. I feel like he's very endearing. That's kind of the funny aspect about him too. Like the characters just hate him, but for some reason he cares about them and calls them his best friends, and he's very loving, and he's just a sweet, annoying character that's fun. That is very fun to throw in there.
Absolutely agree with that. And Todd, like you said before, Rachel can get pretty nasty and raspy and make some pretty wild noises. How do you approach recording sessions where you're going to have to get real growly?
Yeah, that's right. I actually got a question on one of the other interviews about vomiting. What do I think about? Yeah, I just sort of, I just I don't know. Just realistically, I find myself turning into Rachel now and then during the day. You know, I'll say something or I'll do something that's just, I guess, super Australian or something. And I catch myself. I go, God, that sounded a lot like Rachel. You know, I don't know if that's a good thing. Probably not. But you know, I just sort of anything that I find myself doing, and I'll kind of hyperbolize. You know, make a little bit grosser. Anything that I can think that's, you know, that's gross at the time. You know, I think about like drinking and having really nasty nights out, and you know, waking up in hangovers and dazes and stuff like that. And that's what gets me into character, basically. Just the clubber girl, being the club goer. I was one once upon a time.
That's awesome. Sarah, you know, like you said, Sarah is kind of the straight man, but she also is still really funny. She has a kind of different sense of humor. Is it challenging to say the very like weird thing she says very straightly without cracking or breaking?
Yeah, it is, because these guys really make me laugh, and the writers really make me laugh. So yeah, it's a challenge, but I just want to try and look like a professional in front of Michael. So I try and I read it a few times as well beforehand, and so a lot of the laughs are happening at home first. But the fun part of this experience, when we do get the chance, is when Michael will sometimes read some of the lines leading up to mine, when he's voicing the other characters, and that's always a lot of fun to play off that when we're recording.
Oh, if it helps, we interrupt some of our own lines by laughing too hard sometimes.
Oh, that's good to know.
Oh, and yeah, in the middle of actual takes, it's like, oh yeah, that would have been the one if we didn't just crack up and fall on the floor laughing.
Yeah. I also interrupt takes by yelling at myself too, and like, you suck.
Yeah,
What is wrong with me?
there's lots of that. It's
What I
fun.
think you're a lot.
And me laughing like a hyena, basically. Yeah.
Awesome. And Michael, you know, I can't help but notice that Lucas has a lot of similarities with famed internet critic Lucas the Magnificent. Have you spoken with him about that since his appearance on Smiling Friends? I know he's very litigious.
I've seen he's left some comments on some I don't really keep up to date with him because, you know, he's beneath me, but
yeah, fair.
He does leave comments every now and again saying, you know, various things about legalities. I don't think he's got any legal foot to stand on when it comes to, you know, he's going to have to fight Warner Brothers, and I don't think he should do that. I don't think it's in his interest. But yeah, I mean, I feel like they're very different characters, Lucas and Lucas the Magnificent. I don't see any, like, it wasn't inspired, or if anything, it's a coincidence. So yeah, I think you should just chill out, really.
Yeah, I'm glad that's out there now too.
Yeah, I mean, I hope
definitive video
of you getting on my nerves.
Totally understandable. And you know, Todd, you know, Rachel appears in like Adult Swim promo art with like characters from Rick and Morty and Aqua Teen and stuff. How crazy is it to see a character that you voice, you know, with these mainstay, long-standing like Adult Swim icons?
Oh, well, I think I watched my first Adult Swim cartoon 20 years ago or something, maybe even longer than that. There was a little block that they had on Aussie TV, maybe at 9 or 10 p.m. or something. And I used to watch Harvey Birdman and Metalocalypse and stuff like that. And it's the most unbelievable thing that I can really try and comprehend. There was this moment during lockdown in Melbourne. We had the longest lockdown in the world, so everybody was you know, locked up, and me and Cusack were doing our voices. And Adult Swim thought it'd be funny to do billboards for the first season, even though we couldn't watch it in Australia. So I had this moment where I walked up the you know, the main Flinders Street station in Melbourne, and I came up to a huge billboard in the middle of the street of just Rachel staring back at me, and it was just me in the middle of the street and some, you know, some seagulls. And I went, there's no way this is real life, you know. I heard something going on. I'm just in the Matrix, you know. But yeah, it's super, super surreal, and I'm still pinching myself every day. You know, it's great.
That's cool. And Sarah, you know, you've primarily done a lot of live action acting. So, what are your thoughts on voice acting now that you've done a couple seasons of YOLO?
It's the best. It's like the best kept secret. Like, they don't teach you about this in acting school, and it's the best gig. You just rock up, You don't have to get there at like 4 a.m. You get there at like 10, like maybe we'll start at 9 or something. Cusack, I don't like, it's just chill, it's easy. And like, I think you do get to be, or at least the way these guys work, like it feels like you're more connected to the character and the writing, because we can just talk about moments and scenes in the room and adjust things if we need to. Whereas, you know, in a lot of live action, it's like there's props or there's costumes or there's other people that have built things around that scene and everything. You know, there's more at stake. It's harder to change things. So there's an intimacy to voice acting that is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that's all the time I have. Thank you all for taking the time to do this. Really enjoyed the season. Can't wait to see more.
No worries. Oh, yes.
Thanks,
I forgot. There's also another writer called Anka Vlasen that I forgot to mention.
Oh, yeah.
Noted.
Nicely done.
I'll make sure to put them last and say that you forgot.
Yes, last and
Yeah.
least. No, she's
Last and
great.
least, yeah.
She's very important.